Her smile shines as bright as the stars at night. Her heart is as kind as can be. She has the patience of a saint, but if you push her, oh Lordy. A straight talker is Smiley. She's the salt of the earth. Make no mistake, she matters. Catch Smiley's story on a live stream. Oh boy, that girl can matter. Go Smiley. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Missing posters and stories of heartache and fear. She tells us all of the heartbreaking tears. She can sniff out the guilty from a mile away. If Smiley's on the case, then she's here to stay. She cares about these missing children. She cares deeply about them all. She speaks the truth with integrity. For the truth, she will seek it all. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Smiley's questions are like a heat-seeking missile. She's going straight for the bullseye. Don't ever believe you can fool her. She's too wise, man, she won't comply. She values freedom like the 4th of July. She values respect even more. If you want to earn a place at Smiley's table, watch the clock, it takes time for sure. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. If you break her trust, you're done for. Trust don't grow back like grass. So don't give Smiley a reason to doubt you, or that friendship will shatter like glass. She's a damn good woman, that much we know. She puts in the hours to bring them kids home. If your child is missing, you want Smiley on the case. She is always willing and she gives so much grace. She's a Smiley, alright. She's a Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. If you're guilty, you better feel fear.
She was born and bred in Nashville, but she walks the beaches down in Florida sand. A mother and wife, a daughter, a sister, trying hard to do the best she can. She found her voice with a heavy heart, looking for purpose with trembling hands. And giving this all a new start, moving ahead, speaking for ones who came. And she says, I am who I am, I'll stand my ground. Even when the nights get long and rough, you'll hear my sound. She'll be speaking for the ones unheard, 'cause she's got a caring heart that won't be turned. Her mama fought cancer while she was searching, stories that needed a gentle voice. You saw summer's name and felt the heart of week and tried to bring light where there was no choice. And when she heard of Sebastian, her sadness rose. She prays for truth through the noise. She'll follow wherever the story goes, seeking their dignity, a child's joy. She says, I am who I am, I'll stand my ground. Even when the nights get long and rough, you'll hear my sound. She'll be speaking for the ones on her, 'cause she's got a caring heart that won't be turned. She said, I am who I am, I stand my ground. Even when the nights get long and rough, you'll hear my sound. She'll be speaking for the ones of her. She's got a caring heart that won't be turned.
Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, Janice. Good afternoon, beautiful. Hello, Gypsy. Good to see you. Catherine. Wait, what? Wait, what? Let's see what Wait, what's saying. Merry blessed Christmas to you and yours, dear. Oh, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. Yeah, this case breaks my heart too. It is a sad, sad story. And the more we're learning, it's very sad. And we're going to talk about it. I'm the one who will talk about it. Hello, Thomas. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Darlene, hello. Welcome. Welcome in. Welcome in, Nona. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and hit them thumbs up. Welcome in to everybody that's coming. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here on December 20th, 2025. Just 5 more days until Christmas. I hope you're all ready. I hope you're all ready because it's coming. It's coming whether we're ready or not. Hey, Sharon. Hello, beautiful Sharon. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Thank you for being here. Cinderella. Love you in bunches. Thank you. Y'all all hit that thumbs up, share, like, subscribe. If you're not already, make sure you're still subscribed and we will get these stories out. I love speaking to y'all. I love spending some time with y'all. And I hope all things are well with you all, every one of you. Today, this is a little bit heavy. It's always been heavy every time I spoke about it, but there is some new things coming out, and I'm going to talk about it. I will talk about it. This is not speculation. This is truth, and I'm not just asking, the hard questions. I'm asking the moral questions too. That's what I'm going to do today. There may be some trigger warnings. If you do need to step away, please do. Feel free to do so. But these are questions that sit at the intersection of mental illness, of family love, of medical responsibility, and in my opinion, accountability. It does. It's all the things bundled up in one. Now, I'm not accusing anyone, okay? I'm just saying what's morally right, in my opinion, and what's morally wrong. It's a question that I'm asking. I'm just asking questions. And the truth is the truth. When does this stop? When does it stop? So There has been an update. It came out yesterday. I literally had to sleep on it. Sometimes I have to sleep on stuff because it upsets me so bad. I literally got nauseated at my stomach. I did. Hey, Leslie, keep it real. Hello, hello. So I really had to sleep on it. I had to think on it. I mean, I couldn't stop it. It was out there, right? But it's just horrible. And, you know, there has been an update that's horrible, but we can't pass it up. We can't not talk about it. You know, this is also in loving memory of his parents, Rob and Michelle Ranner, when we're talking about the son, Nick. First of all, I want to read this disclaimer because sometimes I forget, even though it is up here on my screen, even though it's down here, the copyright and all that. And I have a disclaimer and copyright always in my thumbnail, but I'm going to read this. This live is for discussion, awareness, and advocacy purposes only. Okay. All opinions shared are my own. Not medical, not legal, not professional advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not an attorney, or I'm not law enforcement, and I'm not a law enforcement official. Any discussion of mental health, psychosis, or legal standards, such as insanity, is based publicly available in the records and information. Personal observation and growth and understanding, not private records or diagnosis. Nothing in this live is intended to defame, accuse, or assign legal guilt to any individual, not medical professionals or institutions. My intent is to encourage thoughtful conversation, accountability, and compassion, not speculation, not harassment. Y'all, mental illness is real and it's complex and it's not something to be ashamed of. At the same time, discussions about safety, responsibility, systems going on, systems failed, you know, what works, what don't. You know, all of this is necessary and it's valid, in my opinion. Again, if this content is too triggering, please take care of yourself, step away if you need to, and if you or someone you know is struggling. Help is out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The crisis line in the U.S., you can text it at 988. That's an easy number to remember. Or you can call 988. There are other numbers, and if my mods feel free to put them in here, they certainly can. Hey, Ruby and everybody, Dawn, everybody coming in, thank you for being here. Y'all remember to hit that thumbs up. Now I want to talk about this. So at the time, what was publicly discussed about Nick Reiner, it comes and centers on a tragic real-life crime involving his parents. There is documented mental health struggles. There's drug use, including psychosis, as referenced by treating professionals of his, allegedly. Reports, they're out there that medications were being adjusted shortly before the crime. Those reports are out there. There are questions raised after the fact regarding the mental state of his at the time of this offense. What I don't know and what we don't have or have not heard must still be talked about, and we must be honest about it. It must be truly transparent to the public. But what we don't have every clinical decision made on him. We don't have that. We don't have the precise things, what doctors prescribed or used or did not use for treatment, or any involuntarily him being committed or anything like that. There were warning signs, but whether there were warning signs met the legal standard required for or forced hospitalization, I don't know, and we don't know. So I really think these questions are some that should be asked, though. And this live, I think, in my opinion, truly matters. First, before we do that, I want to watch a video. I want to watch Deception Detective, and also, if you will, drop his link. I'm going to give him credit here, and it should be in my link. I think it just come out. So, hold on a minute. I think it just come out. Where are we at? Show. Okay. Show that. I am going to play just a little tiny bit of background music. Heck, if I can find it. Lord of all things. Okay. Hold on just a minute. Hold on. This is fair use, copyright 107 for criticism, news reporting, research, and education and awareness. Okay, so let's like that, share, subscribe. We're going to
miles from the crime scene around 9 p.m. on Sunday evening. A coroner said his parents were likely killed that morning. When Nick Reiner leaves the shop, police cars surround him. He's then arrested without resisting, seen here with his hands in the air as a gun is pointed at him before he drops to the floor.
In today's video, let's analyze the bizarre new details in the murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner and why they're giving me deja vu. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation, so if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For early access to new videos, over 60 exclusive videos, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. As I mentioned in the intro, this case is giving me deja vu, and that's because we recently analyzed another schizophrenic criminal, Rachel Todd. The only difference is Rachel's diagnosis wasn't made public until after I picked up on it through her language, whereas Nick's was just officially confirmed, at least according to TMZ. So before we grab our deception decks and analyze them, here's that update.
We have learned that Nick Reiner was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he was under the care of a psychiatrist and receiving meds. His behavior in the month before the murders, and this is a quote from sources with direct knowledge, was erratic and dangerous. He went to an LA rehab facility in the time before the murders. He'd been to a number, but in particular, this one that specializes in treating mental illness. It's really expensive. It costs $70,000 a month. Lots of rich, powerful parents send their kids to this facility who have mental illness, and Nick was there. In the 3 to 4 weeks, and this is so important, in the 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the murders, Nick's medications were changed. And they were changed because he was exhibiting more and more erratic and dangerous behavior. But when they were changed, they weren't right. And it was making him, as one source put it, crazy. And they...
Okay, I want to make sure that y'all hear that, because it is going to be something I'm talking about. His doctor allegedly knew this, that he was unstable 3 to 4 weeks prior. He had had medication changes, and those medications were not working. I think that's very important. Very, very important. Sometimes it takes some medications to regulate and work. It could take 2 weeks to a month, maybe more. But if they're not working, I just need y'all to listen. Because I want y'all to hear that part. And I think what he's telling is very, very important.
Doctors were trying to adjust the meds, but it wasn't working. And he was getting more and more erratic. In addition to that, Nick was abusing substances, and we're told the substance abuse worsened the schizophrenia. So all of this paints a picture of someone. In fact, these words were used to us by one of these sources with direct knowledge, that he was, quote, out of his head at the time of the murders. So based on everything I know, this is not going to be a case where they contest that Nick did it. I think they're going to concede it. I don't know that for a fact, but all of the dots that we now have to connect lead us to this is not going to be a not guilty plea, I didn't do it.
Increasingly erratic behavior, a more and more disheveled appearance, major life changes right before the crime. Like I said, deja vu. But the similarities between Nick Reiner and Rachel Todd go deeper than that. They also exhibit lots of the same linguistic red flags for being dangerous as well as mentally ill. But before we break down what those are and look at some examples, 2 quick things. I'm not a clinician, I can't officially diagnose anyone, and just because someone has a mental illness, it doesn't mean they're a criminal. That said, every criminal should be punished. All right, without further ado, let's dive in.
I just come out to gather my sick thoughts.
While he may be playing a character, it's a chilling confession, considering the lost footage was filmed around the Reiner's property, where Nick allegedly fatally stabbed his parents. In the bizarre video, Nick appears to be playing a fictitious music producer.
Most people know me as Diddy David.
He takes questions from an unknown person behind the camera in a style similar to his father's 1984 film, This is Spinal Tap.
Everyone wants to know how you get your exercise in because you're so lean.
I do it like ISIS.
The video was uploaded to YouTube on Nick's 23rd birthday in September of 2016, 4 months after he and his famous director dad released the movie Being Charlie, which is loosely based on Nick's experience with drug addiction.
I think I seen that movie a long time ago, but I watched it yesterday again. And I really paid attention. And if you haven't seen it, please look at it. Please see it. And, I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. But yeah, May 6th, I guess it was released 2016, or this was uploaded 2016. So how many of y'all have seen that? If you've seen that, put a 1. Because I watched it yesterday and I was really paying attention now that I know that was their thing, their life. And I have some things to remark about that. So, but please, let's continue to watch.
And homelessness. Before the film came out, then Access host Billy Bush exclusively interviewed father and son in this now viral video.
He was fiery. You don't seem very fiery to me. You seem like you might just...
I get crazy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to set me off.
As the reporter mentioned, there's lots of videos of Nick Reiner going around right now, going viral because they seem to be presaging what he was about to do to his parents. But I like this particular montage because it demonstrates all 3 of the red flags I want to point out in this video. The first is excessive self-referencing. This can be an indicator of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. And basically, it's just a fancy way of saying someone talks about themselves a lot. In my Rachel Todd series, we noticed this in the TikTok videos she uploaded leading up to her crime. Every day that went by, she became more and more obsessed with her own internal thoughts and more dissociated from the people and events going on around her. But that's nothing compared to Nick Reiner, who had an entire movie written, produced and directed about his life, which, as far as I'm aware, had no accomplishments. All that said, excessive self-referencing can indicate a mental disorder. It doesn't necessarily indicate danger. What does indicate danger are embedded confessions. In other words, Nick telling that interviewer that he's crazy and he shouldn't be messed with isn't a lighthearted comment to be laughed about. It should be taken seriously. Likewise, that bizarre skit he posted on his YouTube channel wasn't something that someone else wrote for him and he was just reading the lines. He came up with it, said it, and posted it. I know I sound like a buzzkill who doesn't like edgy humor, but I don't think that's what that was. It should have been taken far more seriously, especially in light of all the other issues he has, which are coming up next. Listen to this.
I get crazy. Okay. You don't want to set me off.
During that time, it appeared Nick's demons, which included 18 rehab stints, were in the past, and he was on the road to recovery.
Is there any part of you and Michelle, your wife, when he heads out the door, like nervous at all?
We certainly did, but not anymore. I mean, I trust Nick. Nick knows what he needs more than anybody. He's taking his own path, and we support whatever he decides to do.
The video also takes a haunting turn while Nick and his now grieving sister Romy are hanging out on top of a car.
I guess it could have been pretty awkward when PETA approached you about joining their team.
I'm gonna go kill that dog.
What worked for you that mom and dad did and what didn't?
What worked is when they kind of like were like, you know what, they took.
Did you hear him? He said, I'm going to go kill that dog. Now, he didn't act on it, but he said it. Sometimes we say things jokingly and stuff like that, but in his case, he definitely meant it. Those are the type of things, too, that are red flags. And I'm just saying.
Turn their back and they're like, you know, you got to figure it out for yourself. You're an adult now.
Because I'm a snail and I'm never gonna fail. And you know what? You're gonna have to bail me out of jail.
A particularly eerie rhyme, considering Nick is now behind bars facing 2 counts of first-degree murder. And it's now tragic to look back on his father's steadfast, unconditional love for his son.
So many people in prison for, a failed drug policy, which is punishing people who have problems instead of decriminalizing and helping them. They're not hurting anybody except themselves.
The final and biggest red flag is something that we've seen in lots of psychopaths we've analyzed on the channel, like Chris Watts, Stephen Stearns, and others, as well as people who, in my opinion at least, are borderline, like John Ramsey, Jerry McCann, and Don Wells. And it's this: he doesn't take any responsibility for any of his actions, nor does he show any remorse in that interview for all the trouble he's put his father through. He sat there silently staring at his lap as his loving but ultimately very misguided father excused his behavior and rationalized all the terrible things he's put his family through. This case is brand new, so if you want to continue following it, let me know by liking, commenting, and sharing. Check the Encore for my Rachel Todd playlist. Until next time, stay true.
Yes, absolutely, Gypsy. I mean, we have all said those things, right? We said those things. There's kind of a difference in, I'm going to kill you if you don't stop. I'm going to kill these dogs. And sitting on a car and really, in my opinion, thinking about the neighbor's dogs barking, I'm going to kill that dog. I don't know. Just, I guess there are different things. We all need to be careful with our words. But just because you say it don't mean you're going to go out and do something more sinister. But that is a red flag, especially in his case. That's just especially in his case. So y'all go sub up to Deception Detective, and please, because he's got a lot of good things he always comes out and comments on. So yesterday I watched I Am Charlie, okay, and I watched it before this new information came out. But the film shows deep, visible love, in my opinion, from Charlie's mother especially. Not neglect, not cruelty, just love and protection and loyalty. But sometimes, and this is important, sometimes as parents, I'm a parent too, sometimes as parents, we love our children so much, we enable them, and we don't even realize it or see it. Now, that doesn't make make us a bad parent. It doesn't make a parent weak. It just means that we're human, right? We're human. But enabling is an entire different ball game, in my opinion. And we don't have time today to discuss that, to get into it today. But I think we all know what enabling is. That's why I say you also need to watch this movie. You'll have more understanding of this whole entire case. Even with I was just thinking, even with his little rapping right there in there, you'll understand why he did that. But anyway, and yes, it's very reasonable to believe Nick loved his mother deeply too. There's no doubt. And if you watch that movie, there's no doubt. Which makes this question even harder. Okay? But I'm going to ask it anyway. Why would he take his mother's life too? Okay? We're fixing to get into the nitty-gritty. Most people are afraid to talk about it. That's not me. That's not Smiley. I'm not afraid to talk about it. So we're going to completely talk about it. So what I want to know is, and I don't know if I'll ever get my questions answered, was he completely out of his mind? Or did he believe he would get away with it and he couldn't leave a witness, being his mother? Or is it something far darker and more complicated than that? Or is it both all at once? It could be both all at once, I guess. But psychosis does not mean absence of action, y'all. Psychosis means detachment from reality, not necessarily absence of movement or planning or fear. A person can be deeply delusional. They can believe distorted versions of reality, and they can still make actions or take actions that look purposeful. I don't know why I can't say that out this morning, but that's what makes this case so disturbing, and it is disturbing, right? So many people wrestle with the same conflict. So many people do. And at what point is someone broken? At what point? And at what point is there still a choice? Okay? It's very as is in the things like is real. Kind of on the spectrum. It's just not switching. It's not on or off. Some people are fully incapable of their rational control. But others are impaired. They're not. They're absent. In most cases, they live in a terrifying gray area. And we all know Smiley's no doctor. Not think of that. These are my thoughts. But either it's most common cases, they're not doctors. Most of them, psychologists, law enforcement. So we're not anybody to speak of this service. But I'm going to talk about insanity. It's a legal term. Insanity is the medical concept closest to psychosis. Psychosis can include delusions, hallucinations, paranoia, distorted thinking, and yes, mental illness is real, people, and it's real complicated. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. But acknowledging that does not eliminate responsibility. It don't. Nobody wants to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Where were the doctors? Doctors are supposed to recognize psychosis. They said in that video right there that allegedly they knew Nick was in psychosis. Medications sometimes are failing people. Doctors, they're supposed to notice when symptoms are worsening. When the patient was known to be unsafe, they should have known that right then. Then the question becomes, why was Nick allowed to be free? Because I want to know. These weekly, and I don't know what he had, but weekly or bi-weekly appointments or monthly appointments, medication swaps, you know, that's filling the doctor's pockets, but it's filling the drug company's pockets. But let's try something else. That may meet routine criteria, routine care and standards, but routine fails in crisis cases. And by all accounts, in my opinion, this was a damn crisis. Medical responsibility doesn't end with the patient. Doctors have a responsibility not only to keep the patient safe, but to keep the entire outside world safe too. And yes, that's big shoes to stand in. But that, in my opinion, it's not the truth. It's a fact. That responsibility exists. It exists. It's part of their oath. But it's often weakened by legal fear. It's often weakened by liability, avoidance, high thresholds for involuntary holds. It's a system overload, and that's sad. And tragically, the intervention often comes only after blood is spilled. Mental illness explains behavior. It does not automatically excuse it. Families can love deeply and still be overwhelmed. Doctors can care sincerely and they can still fail. A person can be psychotic and act with very devastating consequences. So where does accountability stop? Well, there's no clear answer. But asking it does matter. I think it does, in my opinion. Especially regarding Nick Rayner. And here's where the story stands without any speculation. The case continues to be the center of mental health and his competency, not just guilt or innocence. This is going to revolve all around his mental health. Watch. Psychosis has been cited now, and that's where the defense filings are going to be. They're going to be referenced by treating professionals that treated him as a serious factor in his mental state. And there are acknowledged records of medications. We may not have those, but they're out there. Medication changes in the weeks leading up to the crime, indicating to doctors, or it should have been, that doctors were aware of his condition, that he was not stable, and that's the bottom line. They're now going to focus on whether Nick was legally competent or was he insane, whether he understood the wrongness or his actions at that time, whether the mental health system failed to intervene. That's going to come about. Whether they did this adequately, no matter in spite of his warning signs. Now remember, there's been no legal ruling yet, none. That has been final. There's no ruling determining his legal insanity. There has been no full public accountability or accounting of any involuntary treatment that was done or pursued. There's been no clear explanation at all. Everything is still coming out. Risk assessments were evaluated. There's none of that publicly or why. Of course, all that's HIPAA. But all that's going to be deemed very, very important and significant. Look, you can believe all this around this entire world. You better believe people around the entire world are thinking the same thing. Families, the public, advocates, they're asking the same question. Today they are. If the system saw the danger, why did it wait until tragedy to act? Why? This case is not just about one man. It's not just about a family. This goes beyond. A lot of people suffer with this. A lot of people don't come out and talk about it. But it's about how we define psychosis. Where does the responsibility lie when someone is deteriorating? What thousands of doctors should do is really take reaccount of everything and how they do it, in my opinion only. There's thresholds that doctors must meet before acting. I get it. But how much risk society quietly accepts until it's too late? That's the question. Why does it always have to be too late before something's done? Mental illness explains how something happens. It does not erase what happened. And acknowledging psychosis does not mean pretending. It does not mean harm did not occur. Or it does not mean the victims don't matter. It did, and they do. Both truths must exist in this world at the same time. They have to. Let's watch this other video I have. Full credit goes to Crime and Law. Let's see. And the Crime and Law Network. Very full credit. Copyright is up here and down here. This is for commentary. It is for education, criticism, news reporting. It's for just learning and all the things, right? So full credit goes to Law and Crime Network, and their channel, if you will, please drop it. I appreciate it very much, and let's go.
I really don't know
what to make of this video that Nick Reiner apparently put on YouTube back in 2016. I will show you some really odd clips here in just a moment. Now, this video is 6 minutes and 34 seconds long. It's titled David. It's the only video posted to an account with Nick's name.
This is one of my favorite reads when I'm sitting by the campfire or like relaxing in Malibu.
In this video, you hear Nick talking in this really odd voice. And the video is not only odd, it's somewhat chilling and disturbing when you think of what he is now accused of doing to his own parents. His parents, of course, Hollywood legend Rob Reiner, the director and actor known for putting together films like When Harry Met Sally and A Few Good Men, and Rob's longtime wife, Nick's mom, Michelle Reiner, both of them found dead in their mansion in the ritzy Brentwood section of Los Angeles. Now, big update that came in from TMZ today has to do with the mental health of Nick Reiner. The outlet claims that Nick Reiner was diagnosed with schizophrenia in the weeks leading up to Rob and Michelle Reiner's murders. The outlet also cites a source claiming that the meds were making Nick erratic and dangerous. A key part to understanding Nick Reiner is that this is someone in his 32 years of life faced a lot of challenges, fought a lot of demons, especially addiction. Nick first went to rehab when he was just 15 years old. He told People magazine in 2016 that he also went back to rehab more than a dozen times by the age of 18. And he spent time homeless in Maine, New Jersey, and Texas in his mid-20s, which would be around.
Okay, and I want to say this, if you watch that movie, you're also going to understand what the homeless is meant. Their homeless, of course, is not our homeless. But anyway, you're going to understand it. If you do see that, I am Charlie. Hey, Dean. Hello. Deanna. Hello. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. But you are going to understand a lot of what's coming out in the news and what's being told more if you see that movie, in my opinion. I really think that, everybody should watch it. This is something he struggled with, was in and out of treatment. Rob and his wife, Michelle, his mother, Nick's mother, was very private, But I think you're going to understand a lot if you watch it. I can't push it enough, honestly. But we're watching some things. Yeah. So there's that. Let me.
Around the time that he posted that odd YouTube video, it appears that he was trying a career in his dad's line of work, show business. In 2016, a movie titled Being Charlie was released. This was a movie that Nick wrote and his legendary dad directed. The film was loosely based on Nick's life. It follows a character who struggles with heroin addiction and homelessness.
If your kid is going through rough times, the parent your main job is to keep your child safe.
This is an interview that Rob and Nick did together during a press tour for that movie Being Charlie. And this was just a clip from AOL's Build series that is posted publicly on YouTube. It is getting a lot of attention because of what they talk about. Nick and Rob go on about what doing a movie together meant to their relationship.
I think the bonding came not from the story itself, but from the fact that we were working on a movie together.
Now, through Being Charlie, you just get the sense that Rob Reiner really loved his son. And one of the most tragic parts of this story, beyond, of course, the loss of life inside of this home, the loss of a titan of Hollywood, is that it doesn't appear that the Reiners ever gave up on their son, Nick. And they were there for him to.
Sometimes, as I said, you can enable without even realizing you're enabling. That doesn't make you a bad person. It comes with no directions on being a parent. You always want the best for your child, no matter what they do. You may hate the things they do. You may just despise it, but you never hate that human. And regardless, you always try. It's just unconditional love. But it's sad. They never gave up on their son. And sometimes, though, you got to understand, sometimes There is a such thing as tough love. And they did give him tough love at times. But you got to understand, it hurts you more than it does them to give the tough love. It really does.
To the sad, sad end. Rob and Michelle Reiner wanted Nick to be with them the night before he allegedly took their lives. There's been a lot of talk about this holiday party that was at Conan O'Brien's house the night before the Reiners were found dead. And there's this article that the Hollywood Reporter put together that I think is really important because it talks about some of the dynamics surrounding this party and what led to a apparently very public argument, a loud argument that Nick and Rob had at Conan's house in the hours before Nick allegedly killed Rob and Michelle. Now, Nick wasn't invited to this party at Conan's house, but Rob and Michelle were invited and they asked Conan if it would be okay for their son to tag along, and Conan reportedly said that would be okay. It does appear, though, that things got awkward and disturbing pretty fast at this party because Nick was reportedly described as acting erratic. It was described that he was wandering around this party, interrupting conversations. I mean, conversations among some pretty big names in Hollywood. And the Hollywood Reporter says that Nick was actually going up to people at this party and asking to know if they were famous, kind of demanding to know who they were. Nick was acting so odd. Apparently there were people at this party who had wondered if he was someone who just wandered in off the street. But in fact, he was the son of one of the most notable people at this party, Rob Reiner. Now, this is part of that story that I want to read for you because it really stood out to me. One of the people who Nick allegedly talked to at this party, demanding to know who they were and if they were famous, is actor, comedian, and former SNL star Bill Hader. The Hollywood Reporter writes, quote, Hader calmly responded to Nick that he was engaged in a private conversation. This is according to someone with knowledge of the situation. Nick glared at him for what felt like an uncomfortable amount of time. That really just paints a picture of how Nick was possibly acting in the hours surrounding the time that police say he killed his parents. Now, the loud argument that has made a lot of headlines between Nick and his dad at this party was allegedly over Rob confronting Nick about just how rude and bizarre his son was reportedly acting at this party, in a party being attended by so many big names, so many friends of his parents. Now, you hear that alleged account of what happened at the party, and then you watch this YouTube video, which, yes, it's from roughly a decade ago, 9 years ago, but you still can somewhat tell how Nick acted and just how bizarre his behavior could be. Take a look.
And I don't even care if anyone calls me a Sally because I'm a snail and I never gonna fail. And you know what? You're gonna have to bail me out of jail.
So it's unclear what the purpose of this video was. It is possible that Nick maybe was trying to get into acting and he was just putting something together to show people in the business. It is, again, the only video that is posted to this YouTube account. Watch this part.
I ain't gonna tell you my first and last name. Most people know me as David.
We're wondering what.
You know how long this interview is going to be?
Now, in the video, he says his name is David. That's the name of the video as well. Kind of just talks in that odd voice. He's walking around what appears to be his parents' neighborhood while wearing sunglasses and a red hat.
No introduction. Jenny from the cul-de-sac, of course. She has a boyfriend now who's in the military. He's actually dead. She's gotten all right. She moved to Patagonia. What was it? I'm gonna go kill that.
Now, it doesn't appear that Nick did much professionally after the movie Being Charlie that his dad directed. His IMDb page lists Being Charlie as his only movie. And then there's some podcasts and shows that he appeared on, which appears to be roughly around the time that he did Being Charlie.
Why do you like so much?
Mainly because when I'm done drinking it, I can go in my room and squirt lotion in it and then use it to stick my. They were like practically just the whole time.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly disturbing behavior for someone who reportedly was spiraling.
I was mute. I said he definitely, in my opinion, was not normal. Was not normal. But a lot of that too was a mixture of the medications and the drugs, and or the drugs singly as well. It's horrible. It is very horrible. And this is such a tragedy, man. It's such a tragedy.
For a long time and continuing to fight addiction and potentially find his place in the world. There's also a report that came out from the Daily Mail that is claiming that Rob Reiner confided in someone at Conan's party that not only was his son maybe acting odd and rude, but that Rob was potentially scared of Nick. According to the Daily Mail, Rob Reiner said at the party, quote, "As one of the gathered A-listers told it, minutes after Nick stormed out, Rob became emotional, going over to a group of friends and saying, quote, 'I'm petrified of him. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm afraid of my son. I think my own son can hurt me.'" Now, again, that's just from the Daily Mail. It has not been confirmed that this was actually said, but it is notable when you consider what happened allegedly hours later. And when we talk about the sibling of Nick, his sister, who reportedly found, according to TMZ, her parents inside the home, Romy Reiner allegedly told police that Nick could be violent and that he's someone that police should look at. So there's something more going on than just the battles of addiction. There was potential violent behavior beforehand, according to these news reports. Now, we are still waiting on an official time of death for the Reiners. Now, this is the rough timeline, though, of what potentially happened. Police have not yet said officially when the Reiners were killed, but it obviously happened at some point after this party and perhaps before 4 o'clock in the morning. I say that time because media outlets are reporting that Nick checked into a hotel in Santa Monica, about 4 miles from his parents' house, with a credit card. Staff the next day went into the room where he was staying, and they made an incredibly disturbing find. They say not only were bed sheets covering the windows, but there was a lot of blood in that room, specifically in the shower. Now, the Reiners weren't found until 3:30 Sunday afternoon. According to KTLA, the couple was found dead in their bed. They had been stabbed multiple times, according to the medical examiner in Los Angeles. A massage therapist reportedly could not get in touch with the Reiners, so it was their daughter, Romy, who lived across the street, who went into the home, this is according to People, and discovered what had happened. She apparently only saw her dad, and she didn't know that her mom was also dead, and it was first responders who had to tell her that later. Now, when the bodies were discovered, Nick was nowhere to be found, and that's when Romy, apparently, according to TMZ, told police that she was aware that her brother had issues, and she suggested that police try to find him because he has the ability to be dangerous. And this is video of Nick Reiner at a gas station near the campus of the University of Southern California. This is in the area of Exposition Park. So we're talking roughly 15 miles inland from his parents' home in LA. And this was right before he was arrested by the LAPD. NBC Los Angeles was the first outlet to.
You know, I don't know. It's just my thoughts. Sometimes I think, well, if the person has sense enough to go, and this is just my thoughts, if they have sense enough to go check into a motel or anywhere else, go home, whatever, and take a shower, wash the blood off, and go on about it, are they really clinically insane? Because if you were, in my opinion only, so clinically insane, and you really lost it, this is just my thoughts and my opinions, it don't make it true, then you would probably just go maybe check in somewhere and have the blood still all over you, go to bed with the same clothes on, or not even have the wherewithal to even go check in somewhere. I am just wondering, it just makes me so curious, you know, all of those things. I have questions, but that's just me. I don't know.
Get this video, and you can see Reiner wearing a jacket and a hat. He also has a red backpack, and it appears he goes in and he buys a Gatorade, and then he walks across the street, and that is when the LAPD pulls up, lights and sirens, and they put him under arrest. Then you have days later, the Los Angeles District Attorney, after so much speculation from media outlets, announcing the charges that Nick is now facing. Now, the DA did talk about the death penalty. It's important to note in California, there's been a moratorium on that since 2019, and no one has been put to death in the state of California since 2006. But it's notable that the DA threw that out there. Nick has yet to enter a plea, though, on those charges. In court this week, his high-powered attorney, Alan Jackson, very notable from the Karen Reed trial, he told the court that he needs more time before an official arraignment. Nick spoke 3 words when the judge asked him if he was waiving his right to a speedy trial. Here's that moment.
Mr. Reiner, you have a constitutional and statutory right to speedy arraignment. Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026?
Quote, yes, Your Honor. The only words Nick said. During that court hearing, he was taken back to the county jail where he is right now. The judge didn't allow media members to take pictures or video of Nick in court. We're told he sat in an enclosed area, but courtroom sketches show him wearing a blue vest that defendants do often wear so they don't harm themselves. Now, this is what Nick's attorney, Alan Jackson, said after court.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly, but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that process, you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today, we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
This is what Nick's 2 surviving siblings are now saying. Again, you think of his sister, who was the one who reportedly found her parents dead. This statement is per CBS News. Quote, words cannot even describe the unimaginable pain we are experiencing every moment of the day. The horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, is something that no one should ever experience. They weren't just our parents, they were our best friends. We are grateful for the outpouring of condolences, kindness, and support we have received, not only from family and friends, but people from all walks of life. We now ask for respect and privacy, for speculation to be tempered with compassion and humanity, for our parents to be remembered for the incredible lives they lived and the love they gave. You will notice in that statement, they do not mention their brother Nick. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this investigation is Mike King, the host of Profiling Evil, also a retired police commander. Mike, I know you have a new podcast that's coming out early next year, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Thanks as always for being with us to talk about these cases. And for you as someone who's, killers and what can go into their minds. And in this case, Nick Reiner is accused of being one. What stands out to you about him thus far?
For me, Chris, because of the time of year, I've been really thinking a lot about the family dynamic and this kind of thing that we have inside, especially parents, to bring family members together, whether it's to capture that family photo at the perfect time or to maybe just create and have another good memory. And I think when I'm thinking about this case, I think about the risk that increases for family members. And I wonder how that will play out in the entire Reiner story. But for me personally, as I look at this case and I reflect back on other homicides that have occurred, especially during the holidays, I think about what were the precipitating factors that were involved, what was leading up to this thing, what caused allegedly a Nick Reiner to act out in this kind of a way. Was there a family argument beforehand? Were there mental health issues? And there are suggestions that there may be some of those, or substance abuse issues. But all of those play such a significant role. And as part of this true crime genre that you and I are involved in, it's not only telling these stories, but it's seeing what we can learn from it. So I've been really thinking a lot about the risk that we're willing to take in times like this, the holidays.
Yeah, and it's just, I find myself with this story just thinking about, here's Rob Reiner. Everybody knows his movies. I mean, this is a man who, is a titan of Hollywood, but still, like, this family struggled in some ways, like a lot of families do when it comes to addiction. And the thing I keep thinking about is, like, they really loved Nick Reiner, it appears, to the very end, because he struggled with addiction, for so long. At the same time, I also think of, like, there are a lot of families that struggle with addiction and it doesn't end with someone killing two people, which is what he's accused of doing. Like, how have you seen, I guess in your career, like someone with his type of background and struggles and the demons that he faced, how often does that actually translate to something like this?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think it is the anomaly, that it is the exception. Most families have to deal with arguments over politics at the Thanksgiving table, or the weird uncle who always has some kind of a bizarre comment that he makes. But when you're dealing with mental illness, or you're dealing with substance abuse, or you're dealing with maybe some sudden ultimatums that come down, like a parent that tries to hold the line on behavior, and it's no longer the 9-year-old boy that you're trying to hold down and control. It's now an adult man who has got a whole bunch of other things going on, has physical prowess over you. We have to look at the fact that the Reiners physically too were older, and so you start bringing all these dynamics together, and it's just like the holiday crock pot that's slowly simmering and getting hotter and hotter. And if there's not a release valve on that crock pot, there would be a disaster. And in most families, that release valve continues to happen, whether it's a parent who somehow knows how to rudder the situation and get things settled back down, or a person who is volatile, putting themselves in check and backing away. But from time to time, we see when it loads and explodes like this, and then we see this horrible tragedy unfold.
And it really is. And from the legal perspective, he's facing these 2 counts of first-degree murder, and so prosecutors believe there's some level of premeditation that was involved. We know that they believe that he used a knife. It's unclear if they have the murder weapon, and it's believed that the Reiners potentially, maybe they were sleeping, they were in their bed. How do you prove that in a case like this that something was premeditated?
Well, I think it goes back to a couple of really simple things that you've already started to lay the groundwork for. Did the knife, for instance, in this particular case, originate in the home, or did it originate in Nick Reiner's possession, or whoever the killer's possession was before they came to the residence? And we don't know if everything is pointing toward that there was no signs of break-in and other things. And it appears that the prosecution has a pretty strong case that identifies, and that's why they're alleging that Nick Reiner committed this homicide or these homicides. But where did that knife originate? Are there defensive wounds or blood in other locations of the house that would suggest that this wasn't just confined to the...
Now, we know there was blood in the hotel because they've already described that. There is a lot we don't know, but they said there was blood in the motel, and, he went and took a shower. There was so much blood in the shower. Man, how did he cover it up though when he went in to check in? How did nobody notice at the front desk clerk anything? If I was a desk clerk and somebody come in with a lot of blood on them, I'd be asking a lot of questions, but that's just my perspective. Sometimes I guess we don't really know what we would do, right? But this is so tragic. And if anyone out there, I want to stress again, has an issue, think they have an issue, or they have a loved one with the issue, please text or call 988. Please. Don't think this is something that you can control with an adult or a teen, whether it's your children or it's not. I know we want to protect them, but please, by all accounts, and doctors, man, something needs to be changed. Again, I'm not accusing them, but it's been said now. And once it's said, it can't get back in the bag. And I'm sure it's all going to come out in court. But it has said that the doctors knew he was erratic weeks before. He was psychotic. They changed his medication. Those medications weren't working. So again, I ask, where did all this go wrong? What needs to be changed? Why do we have to wait until the blood spills? I'm just asking. I think he booked a hotel room. That's possible. Absolutely. You are correct. I don't know why I didn't think about that. He probably booked, and if that is the case, and they hadn't yet threw him out or whatever, because I think by all accounts, I think he was living in the guest room. Don't take my word for it. That right there is premeditation. He already knew he was going to have a safe place to go and what he was going to do. That's just my opinion, though. That's not fact. That's just my opinion.
Bedroom. Is there a moment in time where there was frustration? Was there an argument before the deaths occurred? Something that would precipitate and lean us toward the idea that somebody made the mental decision that homicide makes sense, and then they physically acted it out. And that's what you need for premeditation.
Do you need, and it's unclear, I know that prosecutors were asked about this, of whether they actually have the murder weapon. Is that something that you would necessarily, I guess, how important would that be to prosecuting a case against Nick Reiner if that's not there?
Well, I mean, obviously you want to have it because you want to be able to show the DNA transfer. You want to be able to show transfers. You want to be able to show that the knife is consistent with the wounds, that the knife is consistent through DNA with Nick Reiner. And you want to be able to tie that thing together. But I mean, there are a lot of murder cases where we don't end up having a weapon or that we don't even have a body in some murder cases. And so it becomes a totality issue because oftentimes we think, oh, well, there was an eyewitness or a confession that was made. If we proceeded in criminal cases on one sole piece of evidence, I think we would be really mishandling criminal cases. I think it would be unfair for the defense and for the prosecution. And so what we see in criminal cases today is we see a combination of physical evidence, forensic evidence. We hear about maybe admissions or confessions. We have eyewitness accounts or other kinds of things that build these cases together. And in reality, we talk about circumstantial evidence a lot in nobody cases. Well, circumstantial evidence is more valuable than any of those because it's the thing that in totality says A plus B equals C. And I think that that's what we're seeing in this particular case is that the prosecution's going to come forward. They're already telling us some things that we can envision. They're telling us that the Reiners died from incision and stab wounds. That gives us an idea. We don't know how many wounds. We don't know where those wounds were, but each of those things are going to give us an indication behaviorally of what the motivations were. We're going to see whether there were defensive wounds, cuts on the Reiner fingers, other things that suggest that they were aware that these homicides were being inflicted on him. All of that is going to be circumstantial in nature, while it's individually physical or forensic evidence. Does that make sense?
No, it certainly does. And I think, the other part too, like not just the murder weapon, because we don't know if they have it, but now that Alan Jackson is in the fold, and I'm always fascinated by defense attorneys who are just really good at what they do. And he's certainly, what a year he's had, as we kind of wrap up this year, when you think of Karen Reed and what he was able to do there. How does he, as someone who is going to dig into every nook and cranny of an investigation, he certainly can make a prosecutor's life difficult, but as an investigator, as you're putting together the case, you're gathering the evidence, and then you realize that you have someone like him who is going to question every little step along the way. Like, what type of stress does that potentially put on the investigators who are trying to gather all of this?
Well, for the investigator, hopefully it doesn't change their paradigm much at all, because they're focused on just providing factual evidence and then allowing the prosecutor to decide what those charges should look like or how they should be presented in the courtroom. So maybe it's, how does an Alan Jackson impact the multiple disciplines that are now involved in this case? Because after the fact, if past behavior is predictive of future behavior, we may see Jackson attacking the investigation, the personality of the police officers, the manner and method in which they conducted the crime scene. We may see challenges against the prosecution in evidentiary areas, or in hearings we may see challenges. We may see stories created that have nothing to do with the evidence, but create this back swirl of activity that could potentially impact a jury pool, just like what you and I do could potentially impact a jury pool. So I think that the face of criminal justice has changed dramatically in the last couple of years because of what true crime enthusiasts have done, what reporting has done, what traditional respected journalism, like what you do at Law and Crime, or what the local newspaper does under legal responsibilities, versus what might happen in a online post by somebody that's not vetted, that's conspiratorial or other things. I think the nature of criminal justice has changed dramatically. I worry that we may see, as a result of all of this, a limiting of our access to the criminal justice system because of what we, the public and the online creators, have created, that it might cause courts to withdraw a little more, to make things a little less available so that the criminal justice system can proceed the way it should. And you know what? I salute guys like Alan Jackson. I don't necessarily like it when I'm on the other side and I've got a defense attorney pounding my personality, but I'm grateful that we have a defense strategy in the criminal justice system, because when someone's found guilty, we should walk away feeling like, hey, both sides of the story were heard.
No, and very, very good point there. And I think too, and it's a long way to go. I mean, this could be a long time until if this actually goes to trial, of when that could happen. But because of the work that Nick did on a movie in 2016 and how often he's talked about his addiction, and then you have all these reports about how he was apparently spiraling in the months before, like, it's going to be hard to find jurors who probably don't know anything about him, or that he won't look at him through the lens of someone who is an addict, because he was so public about it. With the holiday party at Conan's the night before, how much could that...
It just dawned on me, something else that we need to talk about, maybe not in this live, but I'm going to say it, is dual diagnosis. Dual diagnosis. If you don't know what that is, y'all should read up on it. But by all accounts, Nick should have been, he probably was dual diagnosed. He used drugs and he had mental issues. But you need a good doctor, a good facility to understand and not just brush that off. Dual diagnosis doctors are hard to find. they're hard to just, they're there, but, you know, listen, you got to pay attention. Again, I'm no medical expert, but you got to pay attention. But dual diagnosis is very important, and it looks like this is going to be a huge issue in this case. There is a lot of people out there who are dual diagnosed, and I believe, in my opinion, Nick is firmly one of those.
For investigators, you think of the big names who were there. Bill Hader was a name that there was just some interaction. There was an anecdote in this Hollywood Reporter article. Are investigators, how much focus are they going to put on this party? Because you did have this argument between Nick and Rob, and Nick was apparently acting just very bizarre, a little bit rude at this party hours before Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead.
You know, I think it's going to play a huge role, and rightly so, because again, like I said in the beginning of our conversation, it is as much about the precipitating factors, the things that led up to an event like a homicide, that becomes so important. And you know, it's going to be important to understand, were there comments made that were predictive of some violent act like this? Were there things that suggest that Nick Reiner was completely off of his game on that particular night, or that he was inappropriate?
Yes, I talked
or
about
that he
that
was
in the very
aggressive,
beginning.
or that
And I think it's so
the Reiners
important, because
themselves,
I talked
Rob
about
and
where does
Michelle,
accountability
were
lie as well.
Toning
You
him
don't lie
down, or
just with
trying to
patients going out
control
the door,
him, or
in my
maybe, and I hate to use the word humiliating him, but trying to settle him down in a way in front of their peers that he may have taken as humiliation and become a moment of contention for him. So all of that is going to be incredibly important, because while we talk about those other forms of evidence, the one form of evidence we don't often talk about that should be spoken about a lot in criminal cases is the behaviors of the victims, the behaviors of the perpetrators, everyone, and all of those fill and feed in to what oftentimes eventually happens.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens next. Just an incredibly sad case. I think that's something that everybody can agree on. And there's probably so many similar words that we could use to describe it. Mike King, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime. I know you have, you do great work on profiling evil. People need to check that out. But also you have a podcast coming out early next year. What do people need to know about it?
Oh, hey, thanks, Chris, because I'm really excited about this. It's based on my book, Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. And it is the podcast is dropping on February 3rd. It's called Gardens of Evil, Inside the Zion Society Cult. And it is an incredible...
In my opinion, I don't know if anybody knows if he took his medicine or not. He was an adult. But see, here's the sad part sometimes. Sometimes even adults, especially when they're in the psychosis and the crisis stage, are not capable themselves of taking their own medicines. You know, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that happened here, but parents or whoever, even if they just figure they're adults, they can take their medicine. The doctor thinks they can take their medicine, this, that, and the other. Look, I know of cases where they've had to be locked up in a safe and be given to them, period. It don't mean they're less than, it don't mean anything. It just means they have to be stabilized, and they can't get stabilized on the trust that the doctor's going to trust that they're going to go out and take their medications. And that's the one thing that I'm talking about. So where does it lie?
Incredible 7-part series on the American Nightmares podcast series. It's season 5 of American Nightmares, and this is a way where
not
people
at all.
can
I
actually
won't try to talk about it.
about
Not
what
at all.
happened in this cult, not only from me, but from the survivors of the cult. We rescued 32 children in that case, Chris. We have the voices of these people who are now women who are in their 40s and 50s talking about the abuses they endured in the cult. We have police officers who were there on the day we raided those.
Oh, Leslie, that is so important, and it's a good point. A lot of people with mental illnesses, you know, they choose not to take their meds. They do self-medicate. But listen, that is so important because you know why? A lot of people with mental illnesses don't think there's anything wrong with them. They don't think so. They don't think they need the medications. Or they take the medications and they start feeling better and they stop taking them. Yes, there was even one place Nick talked about, yeah, they're in denial, but there is one place that Nick even talked about, oh, it was in the movie I watched, okay, I Am Charlie, or whatever, y'all should watch that. Anyway, you know, he said that the medications, he said that he self-medicated and the medications, or the, not medications, the drugs or whatever, he did it to drown out. But the drowning out just got louder and louder and louder. Of course it did, because that's not what you need. That's just my opinion.
Homes with 70 police officers. We have the prosecutor, and we have many other people. So this is a podcast that's filled with the voices of the people who are part of it. And while it talks about and mentions the horrible abuses,
I agree,
that occurred,
and it may come to that.
it's a
It may
story
come
about
to that by the
resilience
family.
and about the survivors and how they made their lives something accomplishable.
That sounds incredible. I can't wait to listen. February
Thanks.
3rd, that comes out. A lot of us will be tuning in for that. The host of Profiling Evil, Mike King, retired police commander, one of the best people we have here at Law and Crime to break down stories just like this
Thank
one.
you, Chris.
Thank you as always for being with us.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Nick Reiner is due back in court January 7th. That will do it for On the Case, presented by
So he's due back in court on January 7th, 2026, you know. But, you know, this may be a trigger warning to some. But this wasn't about excuses. It wasn't about asking the questions we avoid because they make us uncomfortable. And it should never be about that, right? I still have y'all up. Hold on a minute. It should never be about that. Okay? When someone is spiraling out of control, when does doctors know medications are not working? You know, when families are trying to hold someone together with love alone, it just don't work. Sometimes that's what they mean. Love is not enough. But who steps in before lives are lost? Who? Because after tragedy, it's always easier to say they aren't in their right mind. They aren't in the right mind. But the harder question is, why were they left to reach that point in the first place? That's my question. Mental illness is real. Psychosis is real. And yes, some people, they do break from reality. Some people really don't know what they're doing. But not all of them. It's few and far between. But the system also fails. And silence is not safety. You know, loving a child so deeply does not mean you failed either. Being sick does not mean you deserve to be ignored. And being a victim does not mean your life mattered any less. These victims mattered. And we can hold compassion, we can hold accountability at the same time, I believe, in my opinion. We can demand better health care without shaming illness. And we can honor all the victims without pretending warning signs don't exist. In my opinion, there's always warning signs. There's always red flags. If we want fewer tragedies to happen, we have to stop waiting for blood to prove that there's danger. That's not blame, that's responsibility. Listen, my heart, it truly goes out to this family. It goes out to anybody here on YouTube, anybody out in the public, in the real world, what we call the real world. Hey, Daffy Dog. It goes out to everybody who's ever struggled theirself or with a family member with mental illness, with dual diagnosis, with drug issues, with, whatever. My heart truly goes out to them, to you all. But there is help out there, and it don't mean that you're going to end up like this. And we know when we're not feeling right. We have to speak. My heart truly goes out to this entire family. Never forget Rob. Never forget Michelle. They are victims. I feel bad for Romy, the daughter. I feel bad for all of the children. They had 5 children. Hey, H. Davis. I feel bad for everyone. But we're going to watch this. Any new news comes out, I'm going to talk about it. I think this is important. I think it's an important issue. And I think a lot of people need to be taking accountability. Thank you all for sitting here with me through this conversation. I know it wasn't easy, even when it's hard, even when I get wrong, because hard conversations, that's how it all begins, right? I truly believe change needs to happen. I'm not one that knows how, why, but the change definitely does. It definitely does. But it's real, y'all. My heart goes out to this entire family. Anybody struggling, please dial 988, or text 988. It's an easy number to remember. Put it in your phone. Pay attention. Reach out if you see someone who needs help. I appreciate you again all being here and spending your time with me. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That's all free, and I appreciate it. It helps the story get told, and we never know who might need to hear it. Thank you all, and y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll see you in these YouTube streets, that is.